You're tuning into the deep dive. Probably because you like to get, right to the heart of things, quickly but thoroughly.
And today we're doing something a little different, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. We're not looking back at something old. We're actually looking forward.
We are. Our source today is the Amazon page for a novel called The Names by Florence Knapp. And the interesting bit, it's not even out yet. Release date is May 6th, 2025.
Right. So this is like getting a preview, a sneak peek, based purely on how it's being presented before anyone's really read it widely.
Our mission, if you will, is to see what insights we can pull just from this pre-release material. What's the story about? What's the early buzz? Who's the author?
All those little details you find on the Amazon page, we're going to try and piece together a picture.
Okay, so where do we start? The premise?
Yeah, let's start there, the core idea. What's the story actually about?
Well, the description sets the scene pretty vividly. We meet Cora right after some kind of catastrophic storm.
And she's with her daughter, Maya, who's 9, and they're on their way to register the birth of her newborn son.
But there's immediate tension. Her husband, Gordon, he's described as a respected doctor in public.
Oh, there's always a but, isn't there?
Yeah. At home, he's apparently a terrifying and controlling presence, and he has a very definite idea about what their son should be named.
Okay, so conflict right there. And Cora, when she gets to the registrar, she pauses.
Exactly. That moment of hesitation about the name that's presented as the absolute crux of the whole novel.
So it's not just about the hesitation itself, it's about what comes next.
Precisely. The book that apparently splits off, exploring 3 completely different possible life paths for Cora and her son.
Wow. Okay. Each path depends on the name she chooses in that moment.
That's the idea. It literally asks the question, can a name change the course of a life?
That's a fascinating hook. Sort of explores fate versus free will, maybe?
Seems like it. Identity, destiny, the power of small choices. It's all potentially in there.
And these aren't just short little vignettes, are they? It mentions a long time span.
Yeah, 35 years. These 3 narratives are interconnected, but span over 3 decades. That gives a lot of room to see the ripples of that one decision.
35 years is significant. It really allows for deep exploration.
And think about the themes laid out just in that setup. Domestic abuse is clearly flagged with the description of Gordon. Then you have family ties, obviously, between Cora and her kids. Her hesitation points towards, a struggle for autonomy.
And the whole idea of different paths suggests maybe themes of healing, second chances.
Could be. Healing from trauma seems likely given the setup. The description also boasts about the structure, calls it brilliantly imaginative.
And propulsive storytelling.
Yeah.
So they're promising. It's not just clever, it's also engaging. A page-turner, hopefully.
Right. Concept and execution, supposedly.
Uh-huh.
So the premise is definitely grabbing. What about the early buzz? Any signs of life before it even hits the shelves?
Oh, yeah. First thing that jumps out, it's a Read with Jenna Pick, featured on the Today Show.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
Mainstream visibility right off the bat, that often translates to significant sales.
Definitely signals broad appeal. And beyond that, there's a list of endorsements from some pretty major authors.
Like who?
Well, Geraldine Brooks, Pulitzer winner, calls it a magnificent novel, thrumming with life, and talks about glorious possibilities of love and redemption.
Wow. Thrumming with life. High praise.
And Ann Napolitano, who wrote Hello Beautiful, she says it's truly gorgeous, heart-opening.
Heart-opening, okay.
Yeah, and she finishes by saying she's grateful to have Cora and her children living inside my heart now. That really suggests an emotional connection, doesn't it?
It really does. Sound like it sticks with you. Anyone else?
Chris Whitaker, he says, magnificent, a stunning, hopeful, bitterly beautiful novel. Read it. It's very special.
Bitterly beautiful. That's an interesting phrase. So consistently strong, positive language from fellow writers.
Very. And it's not just authors. There are starred editorial reviews, too, which are a big deal in the industry.
Wait, those carry weight. What are they saying?
Minnesota Star Tribune calls it insightful and says it's guaranteed to make readers reflect about their own lives.
Okay, so thought-provoking.
The Times, they just call it an unadulterated success. Moving, evocative, and utterly convincing.
Unadulterated success. Strong words.
And they add it's one of those books that will make you irritable with anyone who interrupts you. I love that description.
Yeah, suggests it really pulls you in. What about Kirkus? They often have sharp takes.
Starred review from Kirkus, too. They praise the boldness and thoughtfulness of Knapp's plotting, its complexity, its welcome unpredictability.
So not just a gimmick, the structure works.
Apparently. They say it invites you to think about the ripple effects of decisions, but also how, the things we can control interact with things we just couldn't see coming. Classic fiction concerns.
Interesting point. What about Publishers Weekly?
Another star. They call it intriguing and nuanced, and they predict readers won't be able to stop talking about this intelligent exploration of a single choice's long tail of repercussions.
Suggests it's good book club material, maybe. Lots to discuss.
Seems like it. And Booklist, also starred, calls it compelling and emotionally wrenching. They talk about the delicate balance of fate, free will, trauma, hope.
And how does Booklist sum it up?
Both devastating and hopeful. That phrase comes up again.
Yeah, I noticed that. And Book Page.
Starred again? They focus on the writing itself, both visceral and beautifully crafted. They even compare her prose to Claire Keegan.
Wow, that's high praise for prose style.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they echo the others, saying Knapp masterfully handles the 3 timelines and called the book at once heartrending and hopeful.
Okay, so if we pull back and look at all this praise, what are the recurring themes?
Well, the writing quality itself is mentioned constantly. Gorgeous, beautifully written, luminous prose. People seem impressed by the craft.
And the emotional impact, clearly. Heart-opening, emotionally wrenching, heart-rending. It sounds like it's designed to make you feel something deeply.
Absolutely. And then, tied to the core concept, everyone highlights these big themes. Fate, free will, consequences, choice. It's tackling some fundamental stuff.
It really seems to be. Now, what about the author, Florence Knapp? What do we know about her?
Well, the most striking thing is that The Names is her debut novel.
Really? With all this buzz already, that's pretty remarkable for a first book.
Isn't it? The page does mention she's written nonfiction before, a book on quilt making.
Quilt making, okay.
Yeah, specific historical technique. And she contributed to a book for the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
Interesting. So maybe she has a background in detailed research, attention to detail, which could feed into that complex plot structure we were talking about.
That's a good point. We also learned a tiny bit personally. Lives near London.
Okay.
Husband, dog, grown kids. Standard author bio stuff.
Right. Anything else notable on the author front?
Yes, actually. It mentions the book is going to be translated into more than 20 languages.
20 languages already, before it's even out in English.
Seems so. That signals huge international interest right out of the gate. Suggests the themes are resonating widely, or at least publishers think they will.
That's a very strong indicator of confidence in the book's potential, isn't it? Global reach. Okay, let's quickly cover the nuts and bolts publication details on the page.
Sure. We already mentioned the date, May 6th, 2025. Publisher is Pamela Dorman Books.
Known for strong literary and commercial fiction, right?
Exactly. It's listed as a hardcover, 336 pages. They give the ISBNs too, the standard book identifiers.
05938333902 and 978-0593-33902. Got it.
We even get the size and weight, about 6 by 9 inches, just over a pound. Gives you a feel for the physical object.
Huh, yeah. But what's really telling sometimes is the Amazon bestsellers rank, even pre-release. How's it doing there?
Amazingly well, actually. It's ranked number 13 overall in books before release.
Number 13. Wow, that means a lot of pre-orders.
Must do. And in its specific categories, number 3 in family life fiction, number 3 in literary fiction, number 5 in women's domestic life fiction.
Okay, so that tells us where Amazon, and presumably the publisher, sees it fitting and where it's already finding an audience. Those are popular categories.
Really. It also confirms Kindle and audiobook versions are coming. And naturally, you can pre-order it for release day delivery.
Plus the usual Amazon guarantees secure transaction, 30-day returns, standard stuff for buying online.
Right. So, okay, let's try and wrap this up. After digging through just this one Amazon page, what are the key takeaways about The Names?
Well, I think we have a really clear picture of a novel with a very compelling central question. Can a name change a life?
Yeah, built around this imaginative structure, exploring 3 different paths over decades.
And it's arriving with significant pre-publication momentum. We've got that read with Jenna Pick, glowing endorsements from major authors.
And those multiple starred reviews, consistently praising the writing, the emotional depth, and how it grapples with themes like fate and choice.
We also learned it's a debut novel from Florence Knapp, who has this interesting nonfiction background, and there's already substantial international interest.
And the sales data, the rankings, suggest its position to be quite popular, especially within literary and women's fiction genres.
It all keeps circling back to that core question, though, doesn't it? The power of a name, the weight of a single decision.
It really does. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over.
Yeah, considering everything we've just talked about, Cora's dilemma, the storm, the controlling husband, the three potential lives, if it were you in that moment.
What name might you choose? And just letting your imagination run, what kind of different paths could you see unfolding from that choice?
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the weight we give names and maybe those small turning points in our own lives.
Definitely something to ponder. Hopefully this deep dive gives you a richer context if you decide to pick up the names when it comes out.
Thanks for joining us.